I made over $300,000 in under 3 years by using just 4 content types, and I want to break them down in this video so that you may use them as well. By the way, if you don't know, my name is Miodrag, and I went from being broke factory worker working for $300 a month on an assembly line in Serbia to crossing over $300,000 in under 3 years with really small following. And I made most of my money by creating content that converts. And again, this is like the 4 tabs that I'm gonna break down for y'all. So I do have some notes here. You can also follow along. Let's make this bigger. I also created over 3,000 pieces of content in the last 5 years. And again, I broke everything down into what worked for me. And hopefully some of these things will help you if and when you apply them to your own business. I also have this really cute little graphic that I created on the 4 types of content. But yeah, let's get into it. So really important distinguishment that we must make when we think about content is that broadly speaking, there are 2 types of content that we create, right? One is like entertain type content, like you can think of Mr. Beast or even like Hollywood movies, like they're mostly there to entertain us, right? And then on the other side, we have education content, and we should not conflict the two because the way you create them and the way you monetize them is completely different. So for example, if you are more for like going viral videos, having millions of followers, and you're just doing like entertainment type content, then the way you monetize for most people is you I don't know, have ads on videos and maybe sell some low ticket stuff to big volume of people, and you have sponsors and all this kind of stuff. When you do more education, then it's usually about selling like products and services and building your own niche personal brand. So if you are coach, consultant, affiliate, and you're trying to sell something online, you're probably in the second bucket, and that is the one that I want to cover today. Again, I create content with just 2 things in mind: to grow my niche audience and to sell to them. That's it. And you can see these are the only 2 things. So thing number 1, building the audience. Again, it doesn't need to be the difference between entertainment and education type content. Is usually like audience here are much smaller and much more niched down. This is H. Niched down, right? And the second type of content is like selling. I wish I could spell. So let's dive. So we have these 2 big buckets, and all of the content that I create serves either one or second purpose. And these types also overlap each other. Rarely you have one type of content that does only one thing. So anyways, let's go over them. So I don't know why this should be type, right? And not step. Mere drug. Yeah, anyway, so type number 1, what I like to call goodwill type content, or you can also view it as value type content. Hopefully this doesn't influence the sound, folks. So this is this type basically, goodwill, and this one is mainly usually for growing content, for growing your audience. However, one of the powerful stuff about goodwill content is that it also allows you to kind of like pre-sell people, right? And we'll talk about how. So what is goodwill type content? Again, this is the type of content that usually gives value and by default grows our audience. Like, let's say you're watching this video and I don't know, I spent 5 years like creating content and learning and failing and succeeding, and I like bundle everything in say 20-minute video. Ideally you would find that valuable and maybe you would subscribe, right? And that's one way how it increases our following, because we help our audience with something that's valuable, right? Usually we create content that saves time. Again, I spent 5 years creating content. Effort, maybe I'll give you like some shortcuts, maybe some templates, maybe some other stuff that will help you deliver insights. Again, if I, let's say, post 3 times a day for a year, that's like over 1,000 pieces of content, and I share the insight that I learned. Now you don't need to spend an entire year and all the energy that would take me in time, right? And I deliver the insight right away. So those things are valuable, and that's what builds goodwill with our audience. That's what grows our audience. That's what also nurtures our audience. So let's say you're already my subscriber and you're following me and you're watching this, and you are like, fuck yeah, this is good shit, right? And this grows again audience and helps with pre-selling, because think about it, if I deliver value to you every day or every week or every month, and then I have something that's relevant for you that I'm selling, and I'm like, hey, sorry, got interrupted with a call. So what I was saying is that you can create value for your audience, and that nurtures them and pre-sells them at the same time. This is one of the most important types of content, and if you can learn just to do this one, I think probably with influence type, the most important type, right? Another way is sharing aha moments, so sharing insights, sharing kind of like the epiphanies that you had along the journey, right? Things that you learn. Maybe you paid money for something. That's another way. You know those posts where like, hey, I ran ads for over $1 million, and these are the 5 types that I found work, right? Like, first you're gonna probably watch that because it sounds fucking interesting, and also maybe you don't want to spend $1 million in ads, or don't have the money to spend $1 million in ads, and also like learn everything from the data and put it together into like whatever 5 things your ads need to have, right? So that's usually valuable content, and many ways to do it. You can share it with like what worked for you, kind of like what I'm doing here, right? You can also, if you're like, well, I didn't make $300,000 meal drug, how will I share value? There are many ways. You maybe did like smaller things, like, hey, I posted 2 pieces of content per day. Like, I posted 100 pieces of content in the last 50 days, and here's what I learned. That's another time, like another thing. You can put in the effort and simply share that. And then another way would be sharing someone else's, like, hey, I took together, like, I'll give you an example. This wasn't content piece, it was a lead magnet, but you can use it as a content as well. This guy he didn't even do it. He had his VA collect 25 communities on School from people who made the most money, and he created lead magnet, like, hey, I'll give you a list of 25 communities on School, what's their name, what are they about, how much they're making, like all this stuff, breakdown, lead magnet. And again, you can turn this into a YouTube video and break it down. Like, you can find successful people that did something and break down why it works. That's another way. Anyways, type number 1, Goodwill Content, which is again over here. It helps mostly with building and nurturing the audience. However, again, it also helps with pre-selling them. Now we're coming to the type number 2. This is more often for like social media, which is where I did make my money on Facebook. But I guess you can use it on YouTube, because this is rarely a standalone type. It's usually mixed with your other pieces of content. So the type number 2 is rapport building, also known as know, like, and trust building. Maybe you heard that people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So why is that important? Because all things equal, let's say you're considering, or your client, potential client, is considering buying from you or someone else, right? And everything is the same, offer is the same, price is the same, everything is the same, but they know, like, and trust the other person. Maybe they follow them for a year, they like their story, all this cool stuff, they resonate with them. All things equal, they trust them more, they will buy from them. Or in the other situation, let's say they know, like, and trust you more, they will buy from you. So this is one of the reasons why know, like, and trust is important. Also, it's increasingly important, like maybe less in the e-commerce, but when you sell like ideas and coaching and mentorship and like digital products, and you're building brand, that's when it becomes increasingly important, because you're not just buying into the products and services, you're also buying into people to an extent, right? Obviously, if the product sucks, if everything else sucks, some people are like over exaggerating the know, like, and trust. They're like, that's all you need, people buy from people, which is true. But let's say I really like you, like you're an amazing person, I know you, I like you, I trust you. Let's say your mother, okay, that's maybe a better example. Like, you know, like, and trust your mother, but you're likely not gonna buy something to learn from her how to, whatever, get 100 leads with simple Facebook posts if she hasn't done it, no matter how much you know, like, and trust her. So this goes to say that this is not the only thing, it just helpful to have. By the way, this is the second pillar, which is rapport building. It helps again with audience building, and I should have added here, I kind of regret not doing it, nurturing. So it's not just about building, because building means like they didn't follow you and they follow you, but it's also like nurturing. It does help with that. Like again, if you follow me and you know my story, that I was working on an assembly line, supporting my parents, hating my life, all this kind of stuff, and then I started investing in myself, getting into debt, failing on every single step, and maybe this like helps build a know, like, and trust. So anyways, how does this help us make more sales? How did this help me make more sales? Again, people get to know me, like me, trust me. When I recommend something, they're more likely like, oh fuck yeah, like I follow this major guy, I like him, etc. Now, what type of content is that, if you're wondering? I mean, what should you share in this type of content? Couple of things. So usually sharing personal stories, again, depending on how personal you want to get. Sharing your beliefs. This can be also like offline beliefs. Some people get really political, really polarizing. You can do that if you want. I'm kind of like on the edge. I'm not too polarizing, but I do have some maybe polarizing stances. You share your opinions, your wins, your day-to-day life, all this kind of like stuff. And what's really interesting is that it's also kind of like repelling type content, because if you don't like my stories or my stance or my beliefs or my values, you will not follow me. So this type of content does also two things, which is pretty powerful and pretty underestimated in my opinion, and that is that it not only attracts people who are more like you and who are like, fuck yeah, I love Miodrag and I love his values, I love his principles, I whatever, follow him. Or there are other people who are like, fuck this guy, I don't want to follow him, I don't resonate with him, and that's good. Like you, on one side, you do want to attract your people, but you also want to repel the wrong people. So I'll give you also some examples. So I really love animals, especially dogs, and I have my dog Donnie. He's, by the way, here listening to me, learning some content stuff. And for example, I would share pictures with him sometimes on socials or on stories or some video, and that creates that bond. If you are a dog person, if you love dogs, if you love animals, you're like, oh my god, he's adorable, like so cute, whatever. And if you're like, well, how does that help me in making sales? So that one picture bond. But over time, you're like, hey, Miodrag also like dogs. Miodrag like coffee, like myself. And then when I have something, this is why I said this type alone doesn't make you money usually, but it helps with other stuff, because you're not going to buy because I shared a picture of Donnie. But when I do, when I'm like, hey, I have a course 297 where I teach how to create content that brings leads and converts, and you also know, like, and trust me, and you have problem with this and you would find this helpful, you're like, okay, I might consider buying, right? Or you're considering buying from me or another person, but because of the things I share, my beliefs, stance, lifestyle values, principles, all this stuff that I share, life philosophy, you might be more likely to buy from me or from the other person if you resonate with them. So yeah, maybe another thing, you can do this again from your offline kind of like world, which is in my case pictures of Donnie or some cool food. I'm a foodie, I love food, so I sometimes love to share pictures of that. I really love burgers, so I share that as well. But on the other hand, it's also like sharing your values, stance, beliefs on the online world. So for example, I despite AI comments, and there are a lot, if you're on Facebook, even on Instagram, these like fake comments who are created by AI just to get superficial engagement. And in the business where it's more about like relationship building, this really kills the relationship. So I tend to be pretty loud about these issues and other issues. So anyways, those are some examples of type 2 rapport building content. Now we have two other types which are more, by the way, both types kind of like can serve both purposes, right? But these are more for selling and pre-selling, and these are usually more for nurturing and building one's audience. So anyways, let's go to the type number 3, which is what I call influence type content. And this is the content that probably made me the most amount of money. Again, it's not standalone, which is really important to understand, because if you lack other three types, you can still, but you need to be exceptional. Like I know this woman that is the master of influence content, but it's like 10-year mastery, next level, everything kind of like whatever, and she make multiple 5 figures a month with mostly just what I like to call influence content, but very few people can do that. So you usually need other types as well to kind of like make this work for you. So influence type of content, usually it helps us generate leads, change their beliefs, get them to take action. It's my favorite type of content. This is one of the reasons I get into like messaging and marketing and what to say and awareness level of the audience and all this like crazy stuff, because of this type of content. And this type of content again helps with selling, and I should add here also like it helps with selling and pre-selling. So I remember 2020, start of my journey, this is where I kind of like got better at and discovered in a way, learned from others as well about the influence type content. So usually this type of content is when you one of the things you do is like change beliefs of your audience. I call this I don't have enough time to cover this in just this video. We are already 18 minutes in, but I call this the triangle of influence. I'll have a separate video on this, but the three things that kind of like influence our people, we have on one side, we have our beliefs, which obviously drive our actions, which is number 2, actions. What do you do if you believe this? And then pain / problems that these actions cause. In this triangle, if you understand it, you can create such a good content that resonates with your audience and pre-sells them. And that's what I did. That's what helped me. One of the things that helped me generate hundreds of thousands of dollars online, because first I knew their beliefs. And again, I'll create a separate video on this. I know their beliefs, so I create belief shifting content that challenges and changes these beliefs. So for example, one type of content I remember back in the day, this was 2020, I used to believe, yeah, you need funnels, automation, all this other stuff, and I learned that you really don't in the beginning, right? So I created content that was so like challenging. I was challenging their beliefs. You need funnels, you need automation, you need email, to like, no, you don't, you just need this and this. And people whose beliefs I've changed ended up buying from me. Also like actions. Okay, you're creating funnels. Like what the belief of having funnels, kind of like needing to have funnels and all this thing does. Okay, it makes you take action. You create funnels, you create all these automations, design, you pay for software, all this stuff, right? So if I talk about that in my influence content, I'll capture the attention of the right people. So it's really useful to know their actions, and I can talk about why these actions don't work, especially because these actions create pain. Because, okay, now I need to pay for the software and I'm not generating any money. Painful. I don't know how to create software. I don't know how to design. I don't know how to set everything up and make it work together. When I did all of that, I didn't get any leads and sales. Like all of these like pain points occur. And when you talk about them in your content, you talk about these pains, you talk about what they do and what they believe, and then you change their beliefs. That's what influences people later to buy. This is how I have many times people buy from me without ever talking to me. Like I made so many sales, a lot of my sales came without even messenger convo, let alone calls. I did in the beginning have calls, close people that way, but later on, a lot of times content does either all the heavy lifting and literally like sells them and close them, or it sells them and pre-sells them enough so that we just have like closing words in messenger. Now, keep in mind, it's not just this, like other things help, like if I delivered value, built rapport, they view me, which we'll cover in a second, status, they view me as someone who has authority, and then I do this, and then this converts like crazy. This is why all these kind of like work together. Yeah, and the last type of content, let's keep this a bit shorter if possible. 22 minutes in, not too bad. The last type is status and authority building content. So I want you to think about this. We as humans are hardwired to listen to the authority. This is because we don't need to think for ourselves. Like if someone is a doctor, they went to school for like 10 years and they worked for 20 years and they know about this topic, and they tell you like, get this medication. You don't need to go to 20 years to school. You just believe the authority. It's kind of like a cheat code hijacking. And if someone looks at you as an authority, again, you can hijack that part of the brain because you said something. Most people will not question it and they will listen to you. And I can already hear your thoughts arise. Is that ethical? It is, as long as you are ethical with your recommendations and being open. But that's a thing for another debate. Now, I also hear some of you, well, I don't have six-figure business. I didn't do this or that. How do I how do I get my authority up? Which is, by the way, this part, authority. So no one had authority starting out. So one of the things I did, I started with podcast and I interviewed a lot of like 6, 7, 8-figure earners, and just proximity to them helped me increase my authority. So one of the things you can do is like try to be connected to influential people. Another thing, smaller results. Not all results, again, no one started with big results. I didn't start with 6 figures and be like, oh, look at me. It's like I started small. So maybe my first, I don't know, opening my group, big thing, doing my first live, having my first 100 group members. I remember sharing this result when I was really active in ClickFunnels group, and it was 80,000 members inside of it, and I was number one contributor, right, in 1 month. And I shared that as a win because it was a win. And all these like micro things that I did on offline are kind of like stacking. And then like, hey, I generated lead. Again, it doesn't need to be like $10,000 sale. Oh, I did this content piece and I generated 5 leads. Here's what I did. And this also increases your authority, right? And then over time, you'll start getting bigger wins. Like you start with like more engagement. I went from having 2 comments to 20 comments on my content. Oh, that's awesome. Then I launched my group. I did this. I got my first leads. I got my sale. Oh, look, I got a bigger sale. And you just leverage these things as they go bigger. I went from like, again, no results to like, oh, landed this sale. Oh, did this, got this lead, made my first high ticket sale, left my job, had $6,300 in a single day generated. And that was my big win. Had my first 5-figure month in November of 2020. So I was just increasing the threshold and sharing results along the way. So that's another really important thing. You want to leverage the results that you do have. That's one of the best ways to kind of like increase your status and authority. Let me see if I missed something. Share your wins, proximity to people, share intangible wins as well. Yeah, so one of the most underestimated ways and one of the best ones if you really don't have wins and stuff, but you need to know shit. So if you literally have nothing, like you have nothing. But if you do have some expertise to offer, even if you didn't have crazy results, this is why, by the way, why Goodwill Content is one of the best ones, because it can also help you with increasing status and authority. Because think about it, if I can share such good insights into your problems, your beliefs, and what to do about them, you will naturally view me with more authority. Like, oh fuck, Mirjog really accurately describes my problems. Maybe you won't consciously think it, but you're like, fuck yeah, that's what I struggle with. Oh, what should I do about it? Oh, it's this thing, right? And you listen to me, and that increases authority. So another way to increase authority in the eyes of your audience, that's not like faking results or whatever, is simply being the most helpful, doing the most research, giving the most insights into their pain, their problems, and their beliefs. And another thing to keep in mind, that these, as well as these, are rarely standalone type contents. Contents, that's a new word. But they all these types usually go together. So maybe I'll do like a value piece, right? But in that value piece, I'll share my story that will also help build know, like, and trust and rapport. I'll share some results that will help with authority, and maybe I'll talk about some belief that I have and that I changed it, so I can have actually all types of content in one piece. But point is, each of your content pieces should have at least one, and usually more of one of these types intertwined, because they all work together. So again, I can give all value, maybe this content piece, if you hopefully find this valuable, and I'm sharing all of these things, and as I'm sharing it, I'm sharing results. I did this, I crossed this first 5 figures, this helped me make 6 figures, and this is not status and authority video, but it does probably increase the way you see me, like maybe you view me more as an authority now because of it. So yeah, this all works together in bigger picture as I'm doing this and sharing this. And another thing, maybe for another video, the way I look at it, this is like a spider's web. I used to call this like approach to content creation. I want you to imagine the spider web. I don't have time to like really draw it, but like imagine the spider web, whatever, all these threads, and this is horrible, but point is, each of these threads, like you imagine spider's web, and each of these threads is a piece of content that does one or more of these things, and they stack on each other. Like in one content, like, oh fuck yeah, he gave me value, oh that's such a cool story, oh that's a sad story, more rapport, oh I believe this to be true, but looks like it's not, right? Oh, Mirjak did 5 figures with that, more status, more authority, and each piece of content like builds on top of each other, and again builds into this like big spider web, and all of this together helps you grow your audience, niche audience, and helps you pre-sell that audience. And this is how I managed to make first, for example, 100K with under I think 2.5K followers on my Facebook profile, and I believe under 500 people in my group. So it is possible if you do it right. And again, these are the 4 content types that I used. So when you create content, make sure it has at least one of these components. Start using them. Some closing thoughts. Start using them to grow your audience, nurture your audience, pre-sell and sell your audience. And yeah, also don't forget to subscribe if you want more insights into things that will help your business add more clients, grow, make more money, and all this good stuff. So with all of that said, I wanna thank you for watching this. I'm kind of like out of the center, but that's all right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.